In the endless black sea of stars, ships of steel floated like silver whales. Inside one of them, the Galactic Academy cruiser, hundreds of young warriors trained for war. They came from many worlds, some with wings, some with claws, and some who could crush stone with one hand. And among them stood Ilara, a fragile human girl. She looked small next to the towering aliens. Her bones were light, her skin soft, her strength nothing compared to theirs. The others laughed when she first arrived. "Human? Here?" One with golden scales hissed. "She will break during training," another said, voice full of cruel joy. Ilara said nothing. She just tightened her gloves and looked down. Her eyes were tired, but they held something no one noticed, a quiet fire. Every day in the academy was a storm. The trainees fought in zero-gravity arenas, ran through burning tunnels, and trained under pressure strong enough to crush stone. The aliens moved with power and pride. Ilara stumbled, fell, and often lay gasping for air, but she never stopped. When her hands bled, she tied them with cloth. When her body ached, she whispered, "Just one more time." The instructors marked her as below average. The other cadets called her the breakable one. Yet every morning, she came back before anyone else. The first to train, the last to rest. One evening, as the ship passed near a dead star, the cadets were called to the trial chamber. A strange object had been found, an ancient crystal sphere glowing faintly blue. The instructors said it was a relic from the old war, something even the Galactic Warlord himself could not understand. "Do not touch it," they warned. "Its energy is unstable." One by one, the strong ones tried to lift it. The winged Zorathians strained their arms. The stone-skinned Dravens roared and pushed. None could make it move. Then, as if guided by fate, the crystal rolled slightly toward Ilara's feet. Everyone turned. "Go on, human," someone mocked. "Let's see your weak hands try." Ilara hesitated. The crystal pulsed softly like a heartbeat. She knelt and reached out. The moment her skin touched it, light exploded across the room. The air shimmered. The ship's lights flickered. The crystal floated up, spinning gently in front of her, and every being in the chamber fell silent. For a few seconds, only the hum of power filled the air. Then the crystal, the days after Ilara's name appeared on the elite trial list, were heavy with whispers. Some said it was a mistake. Others said the warlord had done it for entertainment, to see how long the fragile human would last before she broke. But Ilara didn't care what they said. She trained harder. Every morning, she stood alone in the cold training bay before sunrise. The stars outside the window glowed like silent watchers. Sweat dripped from her face as she practiced again and again. Slow, steady, precise. Her muscles still ached. Her body still weak, but her focus was stronger than ever. Unit 9. Her small robot friend watched her closely. "Statistically," it said in its flat metallic tone, "you have a 0.3% chance to survive the elite trial." Ilara smiled faintly. "That's more than zero," the robot whirred. "You are illogical." "Maybe," she said. But logic never won a war of hearts. The Academy's fear the instructors didn't know what to make of her anymore. She was still slow compared to others, still fragile, but she didn't give up. During weapon drills, she would fail a dozen times, but then she'd stop, close her eyes, and think. When she tried again, she moved smarter, faster. "Humans are strange," said one of the winged cadets. "They learn," replied another, frowning. "And that scares me." Even those who mocked her before now began to watch her with quiet unease. Something in her had changed. She was no longer just surviving. She was adapting. The crystals whisper at night when the ship went dark. Ilara sometimes woke to find the faint blue light under her skin glowing again. It pulsed slowly in rhythm with her heartbeat. Once, she placed her hand on the cold metal wall, and for a brief moment the wall responded, vibrating softly. It was like the ship could hear her. The next morning, she told Unit 9, "Your body shows traces of unknown energy," the robot said, scanning her arm. "It matches the crystal's frequency. You are connected." "Connected to what?" she asked. Unit 9's eyes flickered. "Unknown, but it is old. very old. Ilara thought of the words the warlord had said. She shouldn't have survived that. Maybe he was right. Maybe she shouldn't have, but she had. And now something inside her was waking up. Small kindness, big change. During a zero-gravity drill, one of the large stone-skinned Dravons got his arm stuck in a mechanical gate. The other trainees laughed and left him behind. Ilara floated back and helped him, using her small frame to reach the inner gears. The gate released, freeing his arm. The Draven stared at her. "Why did you help me?" "Because you needed it," she said simply. "No one helps the weak," he growled. "Then maybe it's time someone did." The Draven didn't answer, but later that night, when others mocked her again, he stayed silent. That silence was the first respect she ever earned. Learning from the stars a few days before the trial, the Academy allowed the cadets to watch a live battle simulation, a recording of the warlord himself leading his fleet. The aliens admired his strength, his ruthlessness. But Ilara didn't look at the explosions or the power. She studied his movements, his decisions, the way he predicted every enemy strike. "He fights like he's reading the future," she whispered. Unit 9 buzzed beside her. "You cannot read the future." "No," she said, eyes narrowing. "But maybe I can learn to see the pattern." From that day, she changed her training again, not for speed or strength, but strategy. She used her small body to move where others couldn't. She studied every species' weakness, every weapon's blind spot, little by little. She built something no one could see, a human weapon of will and mind. The warlord watches far above. In the command deck, Warlord Carthan stood silently, watching the training feed. "She learns faster than predicted," said his aide. "Humans are fragile," Carthan replied. "But they are unpredictable." He turned his gaze to the glowing blue trace on the screen, Ilara's energy signature. "Keep her alive," he ordered. "I want to see what happens when the spark burns too bright." The night before the trial, the ship drifted near a bright nebula that painted the training bay in soft colors. Ilara sat alone, her hands trembling slightly. She thought of her home, the quiet fields of Earth, the gentle wind, the laughter of people who never believed she would reach the stars. "Do you miss your planet?" Unit 9 asked. "Every day," she whispered. "Then why stay here?" "Because if I quit now," she said softly, "every word they said about humans will be true." The robot was silent for a while. Then it said, "You are not weak, Ilara." She smiled. "No, I'm just not done yet." The call at dawn, the Academy's alarm rang, a deep metallic sound that echoed through every hall. All cadets were ordered to the main deck. The warlord himself had arrived to watch the start of the elite trial. When Ilara stepped into the hall, every eye turned toward her. Some stared in disbelief, others in pity. The warlord stood tall, his armor shining under the lights. "So," he said, voice like thunder, "the fragile one dares to stand among warriors." Ilara looked up at him. Fear trembled in her chest, but she didn't bow. "I came to prove," she said quietly, "that even fragile things can fight for something greater." The hall went silent. The warlord's eyes narrowed, and for a brief second something like respect flickered there. He nodded once. "Very well, human. Let's see if your spark can survive the storm." The lights dimmed. The floor opened, and the cadets were sent down toward the deadly world below, the beginning of the elite trial. As the drop pods descended, Ilara pressed her hand against the small blue light on her arm. It pulsed gently, as if answering her courage. The spark inside her had awakened. The elite trial was feared across the galaxy. Even the strongest cadets trembled at the thought of what awaited below. The chamber doors opened, and a cold wind rushed past Ilara, carrying the smell of ash and metal. The drop pod shook as it sent her hurtling toward a deadly asteroid field where the trial would begin. Rocks the size of cities floated silently, and beams of energy shot unpredictably across the void. She swallowed her fear. Her hands gripped the controls, and Unit 9 floated beside her. "Probability of survival, less than 1%, it said. "I'm glad I'm not a statistic," she replied, staring at the glowing horizon. The pod landed with a jolt. The metal hatch opened, and Ilara stepped out. She was small among the jagged rocks and the towering alien cadets all around her, cracking their knuckles and flexing their muscles. "Human!" one barked. "Don't slow us down." Ilara just nodded, keeping her eyes forward. She had no time for mockery. The first test, strength versus strategy. The trial began with a combat gauntlet. Massive mechanical beasts surged forward, their claws ready to tear anything in their path. The other cadets charged with brute force. Ilara froze for a moment, scanning. She noticed the beast's movements, slow at first, then jerky, predictable. When the first beast lunged, she dodged sideways, using her small size to slip under its massive legs. She guided the larger cadets, shouting directions, helping them avoid traps they hadn't seen. Some laughed at her. "You're just lucky." She shook her head. Not luck, observation. By the end of the first round, the majority of cadets were wounded or trapped. Ilara and a few survivors reached the checkpoint. The instructor's eyes narrowed. Something unusual was happening. The second test, trust and compassion next, the trial led them into a collapsing canyon. Rocks were falling, and the only way forward was teamwork. A Draven cadet, massive and impatient, tried to push others aside. One misstep, and he would fall into the abyss. Ilara acted quickly. Using ropes and handholds, she helped him across, guiding him patiently. "You help me?" He gasped. "Of course," she said. "We all need each other to survive." Others scoffed at first, but slowly they realized that following her plan worked. They moved faster and safer than they ever would alone, the instructors murmured. "She's not just surviving. She's leading." The hidden power as the cadets approached the final stage of the trial. A giant energy barrier blocked the path. It was designed to test raw strength. No one had ever passed it without full alien power. Ilara hesitated. She couldn't punch it or smash it. Then she remembered the blue crystal energy pulsing inside her. She placed her hand on the barrier. Light spread outward, vibrating with her heartbeat. Slowly, a path opened. The energy seemed to recognize her will, bending to her touch. The other cadets froze in shock. Some whispered, "Impossible." "She can control it." Ilara took a deep breath and stepped forward, letting the energy guide her safely through. Unit 9's voice beeped in excitement. "Analysis unprecedented. Human is extraordinary." Ilara smiled faintly. "I guess fragile isn't the same as weak." The Warlord's observation high above, Warlord Carthan watched on the command deck. His eyes were narrowed, but his voice carried no mockery this time. "She surprises me," he said. "Shall we intervene?" asked his aide. "No," he replied. "Let her show them." And herself. For the first time, Ilara felt a strange mix of fear and pride. She wasn't just fighting for survival. She was proving something bigger than herself. The final test. Courage under fire. The last obstacle was a lava pit with moving platforms and energy traps. Every wrong step could end the trial, or worse. Ilara's legs shook, but she remembered all the training, every lesson, every failure. She moved carefully, timing each step with precision. When one cadet slipped, she extended a hand, pulling him up. Another beast attacked from the side. She distracted it, guiding the others away. With each move, she realized something important. Strength was not just power. It was heart, courage, and quick thinking. Finally, she reached the platform at the center of the pit. Exhausted, scorched, trembling, she had done it. The other cadets stared at her in disbelief. The instructors whispered in astonishment. And somewhere far above, the Warlord's eyes lingered on her, thoughtful, calculating. The aftermath, the trial was over. Ilara had not only survived, but led the cadets, outsmarted the beasts, and completed every obstacle without relying on brute strength. She stood on the central platform, panting, her uniform torn, her hands bruised. The blue glow under her skin pulsed gently, a quiet reminder that something ancient and powerful was awakening within her. For the first time, the other cadets looked at her with respect. Some even bowed slightly. She's different," one whispered. Ilara smiled faintly, but she knew the real challenge was yet to come. The warlord himself would face her soon, and that would be a test like no other. The stars outside the trial arena shone cold and distant. But in Ilara's heart, a spark had ignited, a spark no one could extinguish. The elite trial had ended, but the academy buzzed with whispers about the human who had survived. Many cadets avoided her now, some out of fear, others out of respect. But no one dared speak to her directly. Not yet. High above, on the command deck, Warlord Carthan stood silently, his arms crossed. The faint blue glow of Ilara's energy still showed on the monitors. "She has done well," he said, his voice low, almost thoughtful. "She is still human," his aide replied, skeptical. "Precisely," Carthan said, a faint smirk forming. "Which makes her unpredictable." The summoning, the next day, the Academy sent a message across all decks. "Ilara of Earth, report to the Warlord's chamber immediately. Failure to appear will result in immediate expulsion." Ilara's heart pounded. The Warlord himself. She had trained for this moment, but nothing in her life could have prepared her for standing before the galaxy's most feared commander. Unit 9 floated beside her, mechanical eyes scanning for danger. "Advisory, extremely high threat level. I know," she whispered. "But fear isn't the enemy. Inaction is." As she entered the chamber, the doors sealed behind her with a heavy thud. The room was massive, circular, with steel walls that reflected the dim red glow of lights above. And there he stood, Warlord Carthan, taller than any being she had ever seen, black armor glinting under the lights, eyes sharp and cold as a neutron star. "The test begins, human," Carthan said, voice echoing. "You survived the elite trial, barely, yet here you stand." Ilara swallowed. "I did what I had to do." Carthan circled her slowly, his boots clicking on the metal floor. "Do you understand why most humans fail?" "They lack strength," she said cautiously. He stopped and looked at her sharply. "No, they lack vision. They lack the courage to see beyond their limits. Do you?" Ilara didn't flinch. "I try every day." For a long moment he said nothing. Then without warning the room shifted. A holographic battlefield appeared, a simulation of a star system under siege. Ships exploded, planets cracked, and alien armies clashed violently. "You will command," Carthan said. "Lead the simulation. If your forces fail, you fail." Her stomach tightened. Every cadet had failed this simulation before. Every human had failed. Strategy over strength. The simulation began. Ships moved faster than the eye could follow. Enemies attacked from every direction. The other cadets' instincts screamed, "Charge forward," but Ilara stayed calm. She watched patterns. She noted timing. She predicted movements, Unit 9 whispered. "Data analysis suggests a 92% chance of immediate failure." "I'll beat that," she muttered under her breath, one by one. She assigned ships to positions, rerouted energy to shields, and used decoys to distract enemy fleets. Slowly, the tide shifted. Carthan observed silently. For the first time, a hint of curiosity touched his expression. The unexpected attack. Just as victory seemed near, a massive enemy warship emerged. Faster, stronger, more heavily armed than anything in the simulation. It tore through her forces, leaving destruction in its wake. Ilara froze for a moment, fear clawing at her chest. But then she felt the crystal energy pulsing beneath her skin. Its light matched her heartbeat. Calm, steady, powerful, she touched the controls again. Her intuition guided her. She rerouted energy, repositioned ships, and sacrificed small units to protect the larger ones. Her plan was not about brute force. It was about timing, precision, and courage. The massive warship faltered. Slowly it began to break apart. The simulation ended. The Warlord's speak silence filled the chamber. Carthan's eyes studied her, unwavering. Then he spoke. "You survived a simulation that has destroyed the greatest warriors in the galaxy." Ilara's chest heaved. Sweat dripped down her face. I just followed what I could see." Carthan's lips curved into a rare, almost approving smile. "Most humans break under pressure. Most crumble before their fear. Yet you..." His voice dropped. "You have vision. You have courage. You have..." "Fire!" Ilara's eyes widened. Fire in her heart? She had always felt fragile, weak, and now the most feared being in the galaxy called her strong. A new respect. He stepped closer, towering over her. Human, you are different. Not because of your strength, but because of your spirit. A spirit strong enough to one day stand against anyone, even me. Ilara swallowed hard, emotions threatening to overwhelm her. I only want to survive. Carthan's gaze softened just slightly. Survival is the first lesson. Dominance is the second. But heart, courage, that is what makes legends. He turned and signaled the end of the test. The holographic battlefield vanished. The chamber returned to its normal state. The spark grows. As Ilara left the warlord's chamber, the other cadets stared. Some whispered fearfully, others in awe. She felt different, stronger, but not because her muscles had grown. Stronger because she had proved herself to the galaxy's most feared being. Unit 9 hovered beside her. Observation: the human exceeded all expectations. Ilara smiled faintly. I didn't exceed. I just didn't give up. Somewhere deep inside, the crystal pulsed brighter, as if agreeing. She had faced the warlord and survived, and now, she realized, the real journey was only beginning. The elite trial was over, but Ilara's journey had just begun. The warlord's challenge had proven something crucial. Humans were underestimated for a reason, and now whispers of her courage spread throughout the academy like wildfire. Some cadets avoided her, afraid of her sharp mind and unexpected power. Others watched from the shadows, curious, hopeful, or jealous. But one thing was clear. Ilara had changed the way everyone saw humans. Unit 9 floated beside her as she walked through the training halls. Observation. Confidence levels rising among peer cadets, it said. Ilara smiled faintly. And yet most still think I'm weak. A new mission one morning. The Academy received an urgent alert. A distant colony was under attack by pirates and rogue alien factions. The warlord announced a special assignment. Cadets will lead rescue and defense operations. Each team must report success or failure directly. Human, you will command your own squadron. The room went silent. A human leading a squadron? Many cadets exchanged skeptical looks. Ilara's stomach tightened, but she straightened her back. We won't fail, she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. Unit 9 hovered closer. Probability of complete mission success, 17%. Suggest extreme caution. Ilara nodded. Caution is good, but courage. Courage wins wars. First command. Her squadron was small, a mix of different species, each with their own strengths and prejudices. A draven grunt snorted as she stepped forward. The human leads us? Ha! What's next? Ilara's voice was calm. I don't lead because I am strongest. I lead because I have a plan. Follow it and we all survive. At first the cadets hesitated. Slowly they realized she wasn't bragging. She knew what to do, and she saw things others missed. The first challenge came fast. Enemy ships ambushed them near a dense asteroid belt. Other squadrons panicked and retreated. Ilara's mind raced. She ordered some ships to create a diversion, others to flank from above, and she personally navigated the smallest craft through narrow openings to disable a pirate's weapon. Unit 9 beeped in approval. Tactical execution, flawless under extreme pressure. The draven beside her grunted, impressed. Not bad. Human, small acts, big respect. The mission wasn't just combat. Many colonists were trapped under debris, and the squadron had to rescue them quickly. Ilara stayed calm, giving orders to carry the injured, to shield children, to protect the weak. Every action, every choice built respect. The cadets began to follow her instinctively, trusting her decisions, even when danger was high. When the last colonist was safe and the rogue fleet retreated, the squadron cheered. Ilara didn't smile widely. She was exhausted, but inside her heart swelled. Even the toughest cadets came up to her. You saved us all, one admitted quietly. Ilara shrugged. I just did what anyone should. We survived together, or not at all. The human spark word of her mission reached the warlord. Carthan's eyes narrowed thoughtfully as he watched her report back. She is becoming more than a cadet, he said. She is a symbol. A human symbol, perhaps dangerous. Ilara, meanwhile, felt something she had never felt before. Hope. For herself, for humanity, for all who had been called weak. She realized that strength wasn't just muscle or energy. It was the ability to inspire others to rise. Unit 9 hovered near her. Observation. Morale of all cadets has increased exponentially after your leadership. Ilara smiled softly. Sometimes all it takes is one small spark to light a star. Rising challenges, even as she celebrated, new missions arrived. The galaxy was full of danger, full of war, full of enemies stronger and faster than her small body. But for the first time, Ilara did not fear it. She had learned that courage, strategy, and heart could turn fragile humans into legends. She trained harder, led missions smarter, and inspired those around her. Cadets who once mocked her now sought her guidance. Some whispered, "She may one day surpass even the Warlord." Ilara didn't think about that yet. She only knew one thing. She would rise, one mission, one decision. One spark at a time, a quiet moment late at night alone in her cabin. She placed her hand on the glowing blue crystal beneath her skin. "I'm not just surviving," she whispered. "I'm becoming more. Not because I'm strong, but because I refuse to be weak." The crystal pulsed in response, warm and steady. It had been her secret, her guide, her power. And now, with every mission, it grew stronger. Somewhere among the stars, Ilara knew the Warlord watched her, waiting. But for the first time, she felt she could face him, and whatever else the galaxy would throw at her. The human spark had grown into a bright flame, ready to illuminate the darkest corners of space. The galaxy had changed. Stories of the human cadet who survived the elite trial, led daring missions, and inspired entire squadrons spread across star systems like wildfire. Some mocked her at first. Now all watched in awe. Ilara stood on the command deck of her own ship, the Horizon, a small but agile vessel bristling with advanced weapons and shields. Around her, crews of humans and aliens worked together seamlessly. They had trained under her, fought under her, and trusted her without question. Unit 9 hovered beside her, scanning incoming messages. "Alert! Warlord Carthan has summoned you to the Council of Leaders." Ilara exhaled slowly. This was the moment she had anticipated and feared. The summons, the council chamber was massive, lined with representatives from countless star systems. And at its center stood Warlord Carthan, the towering figure who had once questioned her strength, now silent and observing. Ilara entered confidently, though her heart raced. The council murmured as she passed, some in awe, some skeptical. "Human," Carthan said finally, his deep voice echoing through the hall. "You have survived, led, and inspired. Many believed you were fragile. Many were wrong." Ilara bowed slightly. "I only did what was necessary. For my crew, for humanity, and for the galaxy." Carthan's gaze softened, a rare sign of approval. "Your actions have earned you more than respect. They have earned you authority. The council has voted. Recognition and responsibility." Ilara's eyes widened as the council chamber erupted in murmurs. Carthan continued, "You, Ilara of Earth, are hereby granted the rank of Galactic Commander, equal in authority to any warlord present. You will lead coalition forces, protect the weak, and enforce justice across the galaxy." The room fell silent. Cadets and leaders alike stared at her, some shocked, some inspired. Ilara felt a surge of emotion. Not pride in herself, she had never sought glory, but pride in humanity, in the small, fragile species that had been doubted for centuries. Unit 9 beeped softly. "Analysis, unprecedented honor. Human exceeded expectations once again." Ilara smiled faintly. "It's not just me, it's all of us." The Warlord's Test Carthan stepped closer, studying her. "You have outperformed every expectation. But remember this, power comes with responsibility. The galaxy will challenge you, enemies will rise, and doubts will persist. Will you endure?" Ilara met his gaze steadily. "I will. Not because I am the strongest, but because I will not abandon those who depend on me." For the first time, Carthan's stern face softened into something almost like pride. "Then perhaps You are no longer just a human. You are a leader, one the galaxy must reckon with. Leading the coalition back on the horizon, Ilara addressed her fleet. Ships of every race, every species, looked to her as their commander. "We are not here to conquer," she said. "We are here to protect, to stand together, not because we are strong individually, but because together we are unstoppable." The fleet cheered. Some were skeptical at first, but her courage, her intelligence, and her empathy had already earned their trust. Unit 9 floated beside her. Observation, morale levels at maximum. Probability of success in upcoming operations, optimal. Ilara nodded, feeling a calm resolve. "Then let's begin." The emotional moment. Later, alone in her cabin, she placed her hand over the blue crystal beneath her skin. The energy pulsed warmly. "I've come far," she whispered. "Not because I wanted power, but because I wanted to prove that humans matter, that courage matters, that heart matters." For the first time, she allowed herself a small smile. She remembered the mocking cadets, the brutal trials, the fear of the warlord's judgment, and realized she had turned every doubt into strength. The crystal glowed brighter than ever, as if acknowledging her journey. She was no longer fragile. She was legendary. A new era begins. Ilara stood on the deck of her ship, looking at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of danger, full of possibilities. But she no longer feared it. She had outsmarted the strongest, led the weakest, and earned a place equal to the most feared warlord in the galaxy. And in her heart, she carried a simple truth. Humans are not weak. They endure, they rise, and they shine brightest when all others doubt them. The fleet assembled behind her, ready to follow her into the unknown. And for the first time, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the light of a human who had dared to rise. Ilara lifted her hand, and her crew echoed the gesture. The galaxy would never forget the name, Ilara of Earth. The end.